So the Spurs already have their three-point snipers on the roster.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're in the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you had a great weekend. And as always, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free available where we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know what to do. That is go follow us right now. Subscribe. Do all that fun stuff. Continue being the everyday, especially with the off. I guess technically it is the off season, right? It's preseason training camp, so still going on, but the regular season is right around the corner. So we're glad that y'all sticking with us here on Locked On Spurs. So what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the 3-point shooters so far through the preseason. Now, that's been kind of the biggest thing, right, for the Spurs. They got so much depth. They got backup bigs for Wemby, et cetera, et cetera. But the shooting sucks, right? Who are their long-distance shooters? Who's their 3-point snipers? At least through a few games in the preseason, do the Spurs have them already? Are there some guys that are rising up to the top and might find a way to the rotation because of their 3-point threat? We're going to be talking about that. Time permitting, we'll definitely bring in a Locked On Spurs fan comment on this episode of Locked On Spurs. Well, as I'm choking here, everybody, let me go and bring in our guest. He is back again. Mondays with Matt. This is starting a thing now. This is a thing that's happening here on Locked On Spurs. Matt Guzman, Spurs on Sports Illustrated. It seems like he's reserved spot for Mondays now. Matt, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. Again, a Monday with Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to claim a day of the week. Absolutely.
But maybe you're the 3-point specialist the Spurs need.
You know what? I was actually talking with Maxime about this. He admitted that he's not a good shooter, but he's a passer, and I think that we would make a good combo because I am a better shooter than I am a passer. I'll be honest.
Maybe you're a 3-point sniper at Gold's Gym or at the Y or something like that. Maybe that's where you're at. Again, make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. Again, Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him now with the regular season right around the corner. All right, Matt, so let's dive into this. And you heard of the introduction. That's kind of been the biggest knock for the Spurs, at least on paper. Whoa, who's going to be the floor spacers? Who's going to be that 3-point shooter? It's the NBA today. It's 3-point shooting. Look at all the teams across the board, and they got them shooters. But the Spurs kind of do, but they kind of don't. Yeah, there's Barnes, but then there's Vassell. You hear that vibe a lot. But at least through a few preseason games, look, Matt and I, we get it. It's preseason, right? But if we're looking for some sort of rays of hope, rays of light from the 3-point line or just underneath it, just a long-distance 2-shooter, Spurs may have that guy. Let's start off with the obvious one. At least through a couple of preseason games, Champagnie has been lights out. Let's take a look at exactly how clean his stroke looks, how he takes a shot with confidence, and he's finding the bottom of the bucket. This is courtesy of Synergy Sports and NBA.
Anything here into him starting at point guard tonight?
I don't think so, not yet. But again, that's what he's doing well, is picking his spots, being able to make that three, keeps the defense on, to then have the opportunity to be back as a star and have that hoisted on you so you can sharpen your skills, get more reps, and then to come back here with Miami and have increased confidence again because you get your edge back.
Champagnie goes bottoms up from.
Yeah, he has been red hot so far this preseason. Matt, he seems to be the guy that we're forgetting. Champagnie could be that X factor from beyond the arc. We saw video clips right now from his play versus Miami. Overall, he's got to be the guy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is a guy that you and I have actually spent time talking about on Locked On Spurs in the past. And I think the thing with him is that he's definitely he followed that pathway. He got signed, the last 19 games or so before Victor showed up. And ever since, he's just kind of slowly been becoming, a better and better shooter. He's gained confidence. He's gained the trust of the coaching staff. And I think that's something that he's shown, and something I did want to point out from all those clips he's shown, like, I think at least 2 of them were good passes from Victor because of the gravity that he draws into the center of the court. Right. And so, it's one of those things where that's kind of what the Spurs have wanted to do for a while now, is find shooters to surround Victor Wembanyama with. So we can make those outlet passes and he can make them up. He basically makes them open by being, guarded himself.
Sure.
And so when Champagnie actually hits shots like that in those situations, I mean, it becomes a huge difference for the Spurs and definitely like a different level of their offense that they can tap into.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Just in the video clip, how confident he was taking that shot. It was just catch, shoot, money. Catch, shoot, money. Whether he was coming off a screen in motion, he was catching, shooting. He was falling at the end of the net. So that's good to see. Again, I think he gets forgotten a lot when it comes to this current roster. We saw last season that for a good chunk of the season, he was pretty consistent from the three line. Now that wavered towards the end of the season, whether that be fatigue or whatnot. But nevertheless, he's shown the most promise for the Spurs to be their number one 3-point threat on the court. Now, let's look at some preseason stats from him, Matt. And again, it's preseason only. Again, this is also recorded ahead of last week's game versus the Jazz in San Antonio. He leads the Spurs as far as attempts are concerned at 14. But what's really awesome, though, is he's 9 for 14 from the three line, shooting about 64% from the three line. Got to see that continue. I mean, if he can just hover a little over 50% or just a little shade under 40, I think he might be Victor's favorite weapon beyond the arc.
Absolutely. And that's, the value that they're getting for him in the contract that they've signed him to, a relatively cheap contract. Right. That's exactly what they're hoping for. You added Harrison Barnes over the offseason, and he's a great shooter. Honestly, his form, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but his form might be the best I've ever seen. But Julian Champagnie is a player that has worked his way into the good graces of the Spurs and their lineups and rotations. Sure. I remember he was, I think, a big candidate for being a starter at the beginning of last season. Devin Vassell was out. He did end up starting a few games, I believe. And I think, all he has to do, like you said, is he doesn't need to be shooting 64%. I mean, that's unconscious. But if he can, once he cools down a little bit, if he can still remain at 40% mark, 40%, a little bit higher than that, he could absolutely be somebody that is relied upon heavily by Victor Wembanyama and the rest of the Spurs at that.
What I find interesting, though, is most of his shots, again, ahead of last week's game versus Utah, 14 from the three line. Inside the three line, Matt, he's only attempted two 2-point shots. That's it. And he missed them both. So he's 0 for 2 from inside the three line, but he's 64% from the three line. That'll even out eventually, but I find that very funny there. It'll go into some stats from Champagnie. 84% effective field goal percentage shooting. Again, just overall, and even this is courtesy of Synergy Sports here, Matt. When he's on the court, he averages about 1.6 points per possession. That's nearly 2 points every time he touches the basket. So, again, good numbers. We understand it's just a couple games and it's the preseason. But if you could extrapolate that into next season, he could be a huge factor from the Spurs as far as dressing the three line. However, Matt, where do you see him fitting in, though? Is he a starter or is he coming off that bench considering Castle and Harper and those new guys?
Yeah. Well, for the time being, he's going to be off the bench for sure. I think, I guess, honestly, De'Aaron Fox's injury aside, once he gets back within the first couple games of the season, they're going to be looking to run that 3-guard lineup. And, if one of those sharpshooters / power forwards, whatever you want to call them, whoever that ends up being next to Victor in these 3 guards, it's likely going to be Harrison Barnes, who's been there, last 2 seasons now. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing or a reflection on what Julian has been doing, but, it does help in the same way, because if Victor is going to kind of take the role, or I guess the lead on offense when he's on the floor in the starting group, when Julian comes in, he's allowed to shoot a little bit more. Maybe he does try to get more comfortable, inside the 3-point arc and taking more shots and making them, obviously. But I could also see it maybe not being a starter, but one of the first substitutions. I think it was between him and Cornette that I had in my head of who gets that first call up, who gets subbed out first. It'll probably be one of those 3 guards. And, if they want to plug in shooting, they have Julian. They have Harrison, who's going to honestly still be in the starting group. So, I mean, that's where I see him fitting in is right away being off the bench, but in contention for that first substitution in when they just want to plug in a little bit of shooting.
And what's even better for Julian is that he understands his role is to be a floor spacer. He said it recently after one of the preseason games that Spurs had, I think it was against Miami, where he said he understands that he needs to knock him down for either the trailers or Vic or just being open. So he knows what his job is what his job description is. Make threes, create floor spacing, and he's definitely doing that at least through a few games through the preseason. All right, so Champagnie is the obvious guy for at least addressing the Spurs three-point shooting, but have other guys surfaced or some current guys have been looking from the three line? Let's talk about that right here on Locked On Spurs with Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow me on X at Matt GZMN. Follow me on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone.
Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to improve and move, whether you're running, lifting, cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, reach peak performance. You'll love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching, tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Swivel Screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. Personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts related to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com.
It's Monday again, which means Matt Guzman's here on Locked On Spurs. Follow him on X at MattGZMAN. He's on Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him right now because the season is about to start in just a few days. Cannot wait. We're talking about the three-point shooting for the Spurs and have certain guys emerged during the preseason play. Now, we talked about the obvious one. That's Julian Champagnie, been playing really well from the three line so far through a few preseason games. Now, other guys that have been looking promising, and I'll start off with the next guy on our list that percent, at least attempts-wise, taking 9 a game. That's right behind Champagnie. And as a matter of fact, he's actually the second highest three-point field goal percent shooter right now, tied with Keldon Johnson at 66%. And that is Lindy Waters III. He's taken 9 three-point attempts in the preseason. He's made 6, only missing 3. Well, Lindy Waters, he's shaping up to look. If you're Lindy Waters or Riley Minix, Flagler, we'll get to them in a bit. This is how you're probably going to get some minutes in San Antonio is create floor spacing. They got defenders, they got their big stars, but they need that other option, that threat. Lindy Waters couldn't make it. And let's not forget, too, Lindy Waters, he has experience, I believe, playing with the Warriors, Matt.
That's right.
So he's been around that three-point vibe, at least in Golden State. He could emerge and find a little spot for him on the main roster if he can knock down the 3 shots. What have we seen out of Lindy?
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen so far. Yeah. I mean, he's another guy, a good example of a great value contract, honestly. Yeah. Like you said, he's got experience. He's played with OKC. He's played with Golden State.
Yeah.
And so he understands, you don't have to spend time acclimating him to the culture or trying to figure out, hey, you need to be okay being in a role, as opposed to a star position. And I think he's very well aware of that. But you're right. I mean, that's definitely been the biggest focus of this offense. What it looks like, at least so far, has been finding the floor spacing. Because to this point, Victor has not had any of that. You had Chris Paul last year, who definitely opened up the floor and made passes possible that otherwise wouldn't have been. But with him gone, now you kind of take a different approach. They added Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk and retained Bismack. So they want to be able to space the floor with their bigs. But with that comes, sharpshooters being available, being open, whether it be because Wemby is driving people into the center of the court or because they're facing the floor and getting open on their own.
Yeah.
And, between Champagnie, in my eyes, if you have a guy like Champagnie who's hitting his shots, knowing how good Harrison Barnes can be from 3-point, and you add Lindy Waters to that mix, several other guys as well, all 3 of them, all of a sudden, you can't just focus on one of them. You're going to have to space out, and it gives opportunities for Lindy to find himself open if Champagnie's hot. Or if Harrison Barnes has the ball in his hands, all of a sudden people aren't looking at Lindy Waters. And so he's another guy where you get a good value on his contract and he could help you win some games because people are going to let him kind of slip under the radar a little bit.
Another guy that's been standing out from the 3 line has been Adam Flagler. He's taken 10 shots, I should say. There's one more than Lindy Waters, but he's made 4 out of 6 shots, shooting about 40%. Again, another guy that is looking to show that he can be that floor spacer for the Spurs. And here's the thing: if I combine Waters and Flagler, Matt, these are the type of players, these role players that you need on the roster that will be the difference between a win and a loss. These are the guys that are probably getting ignored by defenses. Don't leave them open. What are you doing, leaving Lindy Waters open? Boom, 3 Spurs win. That's how you see these guys. These are the glue guys, the guys that do the dirty work. And that's what I like out of Flagler and Waters, is that if their job is hit a 3, then they're going to go do it. They're going to do it right now, and they're probably going to do it very effectively, as the numbers shown. What have you seen out of Flagler?
What comes to mind is how great he looked during the open scrimmage. Those guys got a lot of run time in game like that, which, I like to say that the scrimmage, it was against each other. So it only means so much, but I think it is a reflection of what has been going on in practice behind the scenes. And so, Flagler is one of those guys who's vying for a spot. They're going to have to waive somebody if they want to keep him.
Right.
And so the fact that he is being able to produce from the 3-point line kind of gives them another option. They liked Harrison Ingram on a 2-way contract. And I'm not sure if Flagler is even eligible for a 2-way. I don't know what his experience is so far.
Sure.
But if he would be available for a spot, that's a consideration that they're going to have to make if he continues to be a threat from 3. So I think, like you said, he's just another guy that can slip into the cracks and fill the role and be the difference in a win or a loss.
As I'm looking at some stats right now here on my other screen, are you kind of surprised that Riley Minix hasn't started, at least shined as much as you maybe think he would? That was this kind of thing in Austin, coming on San Antonio last season. Oh, this guy, more athletic Matt Bonner, this guy can knock it down. And again, so far through a couple preseason games, he's not missed from 3. He's 2 for 2. But if you go deeper, he's only taken 5 attempts from the field, made 3 out of 2. 3 out of 2, 3 out of 5, I should say. And his turnover possession is kind of high, 28%, about 29%, really. Are you not giving up on Minix? Do you think he could still prove his worth from deep?
Absolutely. And when you look at the raw stats, like you just said, 2 for 2 from 3, then he can make it. I think he's got other things to clean up, and that's definitely expected, considering, he was a signee straight from the Spurs training camp from the Summer League roster last year. They're bringing him back for another 2-way contract. And so I think, he definitely has what it takes to shoot well. He's got more things to develop as far as the offensive game goes. But no, I like what I see from him, from a work ethic standpoint. He's coming off of an injury for the offseason, and so I think for him, it's going to be, I also want to think that part of it, is not getting as much runtime, because a lot of this preseason has been focused on, it seems they've been adding one person every single game back. They added Devin Vassell this past game, and then ahead of Utah, they're going to add Dylan Harper. And so, I think a lot of that time has been focused on, okay, what are these guys going to look like?
Right.
And so it doesn't much surprise me if Riley Minix isn't getting as much runtime, but he's got his 2-way contract guaranteed. I don't believe he's going to be in danger of losing that or being waived in favor of somebody else. It's just going to be a matter of, what other improvements he's making, because his shot is there and you can see it.
Yeah, you definitely can see it. By the way, we're not counting Keldon Johnson. He's only taken 3 attempts so far as of this recording from 3. So he actually is tied for 1 on the field goal percentage wise against, just from the 3 line this preseason. Now, let's talk about another guy that the Spurs fans pull their hair out whenever they see him at the 3 line or camping out there, and that's Victor Wembanyama. Good news, everybody. He's only taking 3 3-point attempts. So, yay, there's that. So he looks like he may have lessened the attempts. He's still going to take them. That is the modern NBA. It's modern bigs, fine. But at least so far through some preseason action, he's reduced. Now, that could be just a situation of reduced minutes and not going to play him all game, and experimenting. But nevertheless, if you're looking for some sign that maybe he's moving a little away from the 3 line and more in the post, there it is right there. I would expect a rookie Wemby or a second-year Wemby would have, in the preseason, had like 10 attempts from the 3 line by now. But 3 attempts is pretty good. I like that. And he's added some size. He's trying to be a little bit more muscle near the rim, so that's good to know. But I'm moving on from Wemby, though. Then you got a guy who was one of the better 3-point shooters last year for the Spurs, and that was Harrison Barnes, Matt. He's taken 7 to 3 shots, and he's made 2 for 5. And he's down to about 29%. I'm not really worried about him. If he does drop off this season from the 3-line percentage, right, I wouldn't be surprised because last season, Matt, it felt like he was almost automatic every time he was behind the 3-line. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was one of the best three-point shooters on the team last year. You know, obviously, mine goes to the Golden State Warriors game at the end of the year where he, you know, put it away before regular. Was it before overtime or was it in overtime? I forget. But one of those two, he had a game winner. I mean, yeah, there's definitely nothing to worry about with Harrison. He knows he's been around the game. He's won a championship. I mean, he knows what it takes. He knows the ebbs and flows of shooting. So I'm not worried about him. I really do like where he is. And I think he will be, again, a big weapon for them to use around the 3-point line. You know, especially now that he's had a year to work with Victor, and it looks like Victor is a more able and willing passer this season. Back to what we were just talking about, he's only taken 3 shots from beyond the arc. By the way, I got my first 1 million view tweet on Victor's amazing quote about why he's taking less shots.
Oh, well, what did he say?
He said, you know, maybe he did turn out a shot he could make in it with his eyes closed, but it was
the
shot they could make in their sleep. I think that's really his mindset. And so having a guy like Harrison, who is in his second year with the Spurs, is going to be a lot more comfortable with the system. You know, he's going to be fine, and he's going to be able to find a lot more of his shots and the people that he wants to make shots.
Well, I'm glad you brought up assists. Go back to Wemby again. So far through a couple of preseason games, 12 assists from the big man right there. So that's good. Now the turnovers are a little high. He has had 11 total turnovers. But he's definitely looking for other guys, which is good because he's going to command a lot of attention. It's just going to get double, triple team. So if you're a Lindy Waters or a Flagler or a Champagnie or a Minix or Barnes, you best be knocking down those outside shots because there'll be a lot of space for you to operate. I don't know if we should talk about Devin Vassell because he's only played just, at least at this recording, 1 preseason game. In that 1 preseason game, he took 4 3-pointers, missed them all. So I think it's too soon to bag on him for that. So I think we wait to see with more playing time, regular season starts, we'll jump into that. I mean, you know, from the looks of it, it feels like the Spurs might have, we put it all together, might have some, I want to say great, but some good 3-point threats. And I think that's going to be between Champagnie, Waters, and Flagler. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. If one thing is certain, they have a lot more 3-point talent, a lot more options on the 3-point line that they can, you know, with a straight face say, look, we're going to go to you and we're going to rely on you to make these shots. A lot more of that than they have in years past. I mean, just a couple of years ago, Doug McDermott was the only 3-point shooter they had on the team.
That's right.
You know, and so it's definitely a good they're trending in the right direction when it comes to adding those kinds of talents around Victor. It's just a matter of who, you know, honestly, I could see it being one of those things where, you know, Julian has a hot streak and then Julian cools down, but Harrison Barnes has a hot streak. And then maybe Riley Minix plays a couple games and he does find his stroke. You know, he's capable. He's put up 30 pointers in the G League before. And so, you know, it's a matter of who's hot at which times and finding out, you know, how to get the ball to those players, you know, on top of the fact that you have Victor Wembanyama, who, if things go according to plan, will continue. I mean, he'll get more traction and more, you know, his gravitational pull will increase as the year goes on if he continues to improve. Because players are going to start selling out to stop him, you know, not realizing that he now has 3 or 4 different options around the 3-point line.
Can you imagine if this guy, Carter Bryant, starts knocking down some threes?
Exactly.
Jeez.
I've been praying for him to make some shots.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked about it several times over the summer with him and with Coach Mike Noyes. That guy is, I mean, Carter is definitely, and he stands to be a really big addition to this team defensively, obviously, but especially with a 3-point arsenal. He just has to kind of tap into it. He hasn't quite found that yet.
Yeah, so far through preseason action, he's taken 6 3-pointers. He was only made 1. So that's something he definitely has to work on. But, you know, everybody else, it seems like the Spurs might have some good 3-point snipers on the roster. We got it down to Champagnie, Waters, and Flagler. Who knows? The other guys could emerge, could Vassell, you know, just get on rhythm. You know, what about Carter Bryant? You know, we didn't even mention David Jones Garcia, you know, but the point is they potentially could have some good 3-point shooters. But at least we know there's 3 guys on the roster that could provide that whatever he thinks is a missing link for the Spurs team to be really, really good. But what do y'all think, everybody? You let Matt know your thoughts over at X, that's at MattGZMEN. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. When we get back, we're going to talk about, well, you guys, Locked On Spurs fans. What are y'all talking about over the Locked On Spurs YouTube page?
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll love FanDuel because it's just fits everything you need. You can build a same-game parlay, do player props, jump into live action as the action unfolds. Make every moment more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Quick, easy, the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Cowboys have started their season. Texans are starting their season, so might as well jump on FanDuel right now. Ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, let's talk about Monarch Money. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even know what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And whether you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch will help you. How about this? Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Hey, can you identify that you're not saving as much as you thought? Monarch can help you. They'll give you a notice of insufficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Maximizing investments, increasing your savings rate. You can easily review your finances with your partner or financial advisor, keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Look, don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman. It's Monday, so you know what that means. It's Matt. Yeah, Mondays with Matt here on Locked On Spurs. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow Max at MattGZ, man. Hey, Matt, let's dive into one. Let's pick one Locked On Spurs fan comment. And over the break, we discussed it a little bit, and you were kind of shocked that a fan is leaving, coming at Keldon Johnson. They also went at Devin Vassell as well, but mainly Keldon Johnson. Let's read what this person had to say, and then we react to it. First of all, everybody, it's a long comment, so I'll try to sort of summarize it as best I can. This is from Safe Space Invader. Now, he says, quote, "I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but watching Johnson and Vassell last preseason game made me sick to my stomach. They just do the same thing over and over, and during their whole time with the Spurs, they have not shown they are winners. I'm not saying they're not good players. They have a role in this league and will have long careers, but in my opinion, but they have that losing stank on them. Sorry for being negative, but I'm ready to see anybody but them on the court for my Spurs." Now, thank you for that comment, first of all, Safe Space Invader. Looks like you're on one right now. But let's start off with Keldon Johnson. I'm going to have to strongly disagree, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
I think Keldon has been showing in the preseason that he's pretty good. I'm not saying he's great. Not saying he's Luka or Giannis or Wemby or LeBron. He's just a good player. He's going to be productive for you. He ain't going to give you quadruple doubles or triple doubles. He does. That's gravy. But he's going to come off that bench and do what he does. Get you some scoring, get you some rebounds, bring the energy, bring the hustle, and so much more. Got to agree with Safe Space Invader. What do you think, Matt?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Keldon is the longest tenured Spur.
Yep.
Which is, a little weird to think about. I think he found it a little weird when we mentioned it to him at Media Day. This is a guy that has changed his role maybe 6, 7, 8 times. He used to be the guy on the team after DeJounte Murray left. It was just him. And then Victor comes in and he kind of takes a second, a back seat to him. And then he goes last year to playing from the bench. And so, this is a guy that is very willing to adapt and make changes as needed for the team. That's, to me, the embodiment of the Spurs culture that they've been trying to build, and they have built, for years and years. And so, I think I like where he's settled. I think he's become a good, a great player off the bench, somebody who can give you quick points, who can get to the rim, who's not afraid to pass. I don't know. They've talked about him a lot as the loudest guy, as the most contagious energy. To me, it's just, he is the embodiment of the Spurs because he's been there the longest. He knows what it's all about. And so, I would strongly disagree on the winning aspect of it. I mean, if you're expecting him to be an all-star caliber player, then maybe, you are disappointed, right? But I don't think that's the expectation for him. He's expected to come in and give you as much energy as he can, and he's good.
Yeah. And Matt, let's not forget too, remember pre-Wemby, Keldon was the guy for San Antonio.
Right.
Keldon was the head of the snake for the Spurs. He was the one putting up 20 or more points for the team, again, pre-Wemby. And remember, I forget what year it was. There was kind of some thought that maybe he could have made an all-star game. I think was it Draymond? I might get confused here.
I think you're right.
There was a situation where Keldon was not for sure in, but there's a possibility of him getting to the all-star game. And then, of course, he made the Olympics. Obviously, Pop maybe had a lot to do with that, but nevertheless, he is capable of being a high productive player, more so than what you're seeing right now. But he's accepted a role. Think about it. He's gone from rookie to thrown into the fire because of the pandemic, no G League or minimal G League, then gets thrust into the main guy for the team, then gets pushed aside, and then now coming off the bench. And Matt, there's a chance he may even be deeper in the bench. Who knows how Harper is going to turn out? So,
right.
I think it's unfair to really kind of come at Keldon considering all that he's gone through, and he's done it as a pro. There's not one time he has or snapped back or demanded a trade or anything like that. So good on him. Now for Devin Vassell, though, he seems to get a lot of flack from Spurs fans, and we saw it here from Safe Space Invader. I'm not there yet. I'm not there to say that he's not a winner by far. He is one of the more competitive guys on the team. He's taken ownership about being a veteran / leader of this Spurs squad. He played pretty well last season. Let's not forget he started the season rough. He was injured. So he's never had a fully healthy season. He's probably going to have one this upcoming season. And I really believe a shift in his role, either as the third option or even off the bench, is going to help him tremendously. Your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, there have been a lot of setbacks for him since he arrived in San Antonio. I think we were talking it through the other day in the media room. This has been his first full offseason just to get better. Last offseason he was dealing with injury, a couple off seasons before that as well. Even when he was drafted during the COVID draft. And so, that whole offseason preparation looked wonky. And so, he's expected to be one of the better players and better producers on this team, especially in offense, and that's what they're paying him for. And I'd be willing to say that so far he hasn't lived up to that major contract he earned, but at the same time, when you're dealing with injuries again and again, it's hard to do that. And so if you want to talk about his lack of production and what he needs to do, then great, because he does need to do more. And I think he knows that too. He's excited to show that he's capable of more and that he wants to be a bigger piece of this team when healthy. But, you can't really come at his mindset considering the fact that he's stayed exactly the same. He's gone through every recovery process he needs to. He's taken his time with it, and he's remained optimistic and okay with whatever role he settles into. I don't think either of those two players, I don't think there's anything that you can really bring against them as far as their mindset and the way they've handled their different changes of roles.
By the way, Safe Space Invader wasn't done going at Vassell. He left a follow-up comment saying, "I'm sorry, Vassell doesn't play good defense. I'd say he's average on his best day." So, yeah, well, fans are going to fan. Fans do expect a lot. I mean, Mitch Johnson talked about it in the, I guess it was media day, saying, fans' expectations should be high. Fans' should be the team is winning and full of winners. Right. So we understand what you're coming from, Open Space or Space Invader. I think that's what your name is. Get the name right here. It is Safe Space Invader. So we appreciate the comment, Safe Space. But, just kind of keep things in perspective. Keldon, I disagree with you there. Matt does well. Devin, you may have some points, but nevertheless, you can't attack a guy mentality. He is a winner. Matt's seen it. I've seen it. He wants to win. He wants to. He always talks about getting to the postseason. He'll love to get to there. And I think he will thrive in whatever new role he gets, whether playing off Victor, playing off Castle, or playing off Harper, creating his own shot. He was one of the better Spurs pick and pop kind of mid-range shooters last year. So he does bring a lot of value to the squad. And he can hit the three. So keep that in mind. But safe space, we appreciate the comment nonetheless. He is Matt Guzman with the Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Matt, the season's right around the corner. What you got going over there at Spurs on Sports Illustrated?
Yeah, well, I actually had a chance, funny enough, to talk to Keldon about Western wear, his Cowboys stuff, and we did talk about him being the longest tenured Spur and everything. Yeah. And so it was a really good conversation. So I'm hoping to put that out right before the regular season begins. So that can be looking forward to. Yeah, and I'm hoping that they do bring back those jerseys as well.
Oh yeah, I think they unofficially are, Matt.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what I got going over there. So
I think those were the best alternative jerseys they've introduced recently.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are number one.
Those are great.
Number one. Yeah. Look at young Keldon too, man. Got the hair and everything. Pre-cowboy look. Yeah, this is way before he really rocked out with the cowboy gear there. But you got to go check out Matt's article about Keldon and his Western get up there. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMA. And again, it wouldn't be Monday without Matt. Matt somehow finds his way on Mondays. I think he's doing it on purpose now, everybody. He's doing it. Jeff, I can volunteer for the show on Monday. Then it's Mondays with Matt. Look at that. Look how that happened. Matt, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us here on Locked On Spurs. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every day. Make sure to follow us on X at Locked On Spurs. Don't forget Kens 5 Plus app. There's iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5. Well, you know what to do, right? Go subscribe. YouTube, probably your best option. And continue being an everydayer. We're back tomorrow as the Spurs season is right around the corner. Cannot wait. Check out Locked On NBA on YouTube. Just search Locked On NBA, hit subscribe, and you're good to go. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.